Hey, it's Scott Bertram, and I've got a challenge for you today. Become a better educated American citizen. And to help you do just that, we at Hillsdale College have our free online courses available for all who wish to learn. Our challenge? Take just one of our courses. There are so many to choose from. You can discover the beauty of the Bible in the Genesis story, study the writings of C.S. Lewis, or explore the true meaning of America in Constitution 101. We have dozens more to choose from, and all these self-paced free courses feature Hillsdale faculty and scholars, many you've heard on this podcast. So visit hillsdale.edu/course, COURSE, and pick one of the more than 30 free Hillsdale courses. I hope you'll accept my challenge. Pick whichever course you like and become a more educated citizen today. Go to hillsdale.edu/course, COURSE. That's hillsdale.edu/course.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Bubble, a Hillsdale College Career Services production where we take you outside the classroom and into the professional arena to bring you special tips and tricks from recent alumni in all areas of practice. This show is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. I'm Lauren Scott, and joining me today is Lauren Carl from Hillsdale's class of 2014 and Vice President at Pinkston. Thank you for joining me today, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about the company that you're at and what a day in the life looks like at your job.
Absolutely. So I work at Pinkston, which is a strategic communications firm. We're based just outside of D.C., and my day kind of runs the gamut. So if you have any kind of background on communications, you know, they're kind of different buckets. I got my start in PR, and Pinkston historically is a PR shop, and over the years we have invested in digital services. So my role at this point, I help run the operations side of the digital department and work on integrated projects, meaning things that have multi-channel strategies. So I work across different deliverables like PR and digital marketing and web design and production, all those things. So I help clients come up with strategies to get their stories out into the marketplace over different channels. So a day can look like a whole lot of things, but often includes meetings with clients, building strategies, working with teammates to build out different creative and copy assets, and then kind of reporting back to see how everything's performing. So it's a mix of a lot of different things.
What do you think is the most important skill to have to do your job well?
There are a lot of skills that we tend to draw on just across the communications portfolio. I think what I've kind of learned over the years is being inquisitive and kind of looking at things from different angles is super, super important, both in terms of being able to tell a story really well, trying to help a client understand even what they mean themselves. Sometimes that's not completely evident. Being able to learn a lot of different things. The communications toolkit, from kind of like a PR standpoint, they're kind of a set kind of toolkit of tactics that you draw from, and you apply them in a lot of ways for a lot of different clients. And then from kind of the digital standpoint, the industry is always changing. So kind of being able to both learn how to stay on top of trends and learn how to stay on top of the news cycle is super important. So being able to be inquisitive and agile are definitely things that are pretty important.
What did you do right after graduation?
So right after graduation, I didn't take any time off, which I do recommend rest. So I would probably not repeat that. But I went from working on campus for a little bit to my job down in D.C. I, after graduation, was working through a fellowship program at the Institute for Faith Work and Economics as a research associate. My major was economics, and I got really excited about the mission of this organization, so I came down to DC about 3 weeks after graduation and jumped right in.
What did you learn as a research associate that helped you in your future job?
Well, I learned that I need to talk to people. The subject matter was really interesting to me, and I split my time between kind of researching economic topics that related to the mission organization, and then I spent time ghostwriting, and then I spent time. It was primarily within like the student outreach division of what we're delivering in communications, and kind of across those three buckets. I found that I was really drawn more towards like the writing and the communications pieces, both the writing that I was doing for myself and then the writing I was doing on behalf of some of the other executives. So I think I didn't fully expect to come out of that job wanting to get a different job, but I think pretty quickly found that I was not cut out to do research for 8 hours a day, but really liked kind of the dynamic aspects of storytelling and figuring out how to deal with different channels.
Tell me about the different positions that you have held at Pinkston and how those have led to you being vice president at the company.
Absolutely. So I started at Pinkston at kind of like the lowest tier you can on the PR side. And at the time, Pinkston was about 25 people. And so it actually meant juggling a fair amount of responsibility right off the bat. So I was pitching the Wall Street Journal on day one, which probably could have used a little bit more hand-holding, but there we were. And had the opportunity to staff some really interesting events. I was at one of the early GOP debates in the 2016 cycle, advocating on behalf of justice reform, with like kind of walking the streets of Cleveland, talking to TV reporters, trying to get them to cover my client, and just had the opportunity to really dig in and manage some really interesting projects. So from the account coordinator to the account executive level, there isn't a ton of difference aside from you just get a little bit more client exposure, which at that point I'd already had a fair amount, and kind of just moved my way up through the ranks, took on more clients as I went. Around the senior account executive level, I started managing and building a team. And through that and the senior account manager level, my portfolio ranged from, I think, 7 to 13 accounts at different points, and built out a team. By the time I was a director, a team of about 5 plus interns as I rotated through, and was managing an account load of 13. And then at the time, we were still kind of doing a primarily PR-focused deliverable set, but we were starting to kind of look at different angles and figure out how can we offer our clients something a little bit more robust. So in my case, that often meant bringing in organic social or figuring out ways to leverage own channels and paid channels to just bring a little bit more surround sound to the PR work that we were doing. And about 2 years ago, Pinkston made an investment in bringing more digital services in-house. And I was brought over to the digital team to help build a department on the one hand, and then also kind of build a more integrated approach to account management. So that has led to what I'm doing now. And so my time is split between kind of the operations side of hiring and talent acquisition and development and management, and the other side of this kind of integrated account approach. And so I manage a number of our integrated projects and work with folks across the PR and digital teams to bring about a lot of different things to clients.
For our alumni or students who are interested in a career such as yours, should they be looking for certain internships or job opportunities?
Yeah, there are a lot of routes into communications. So if you're looking at going kind of the PR track, there are a couple kind of more common entry points. So if you're interested in the political route, there there are always communications jobs on the Hill, and you learn the toolkit, you learn kind of like the ropes of PR really quickly, and you get kind of the credibility of being in the lawmaking process. The hours are kind of grueling, so it's the closest thing to agency experience without actually getting paid agency wages. So there's that to consider. There's the campaign route, which similar playbook to being on the Hill, but it's much more responsive to an individual's kind of experience in the election cycle, and the long-term prospects are either kind of following the candidate to where their next stop is or jumping on another campaign. Just depends on kind of where things are. You can go in-house, which means that you can focus in a little bit more of a sedate pace potentially, and you might have a little bit more balance depending on the flavor and the size of the communications team. There's some environments where you can get a more well-rounded and multi-channel experience. Sometimes it's a little bit bigger, and so you'll specialize a little bit more. But work-life balance might be a little bit more balanced. The agency route, which is the route I went, you often will wear different hats depending on the client load that you have. So you might be switching between industries. Some agencies focus in on specific industries and specialize a little bit more. And then within the agency world, you can obviously specialize either in the PR route, which is where I started. You can go digital marketing. You can go pure advertising. There are kind of branding routes you can go. So I would say for the track that I'm on, it's most likely having kind of an entry point either in the Hill track or in the agency track. But there are pros and cons for any flavor of comms.
What kind of jobs or positions did you have while you were a student at Hillsdale College?
I covered a little bit of ground outside of employment. I was part of the orchestra, and that took up a fair amount of my time. I was orchestra librarian as one of my roles for a little bit there. I was an RA in MAC for, 2 years, I guess. So was there my sophomore and junior years. And then aside from that, I participated in HCS for this part of the time. I had to go back and check. I was part of ODK in Pi Delta Phi. And I think there was a season there where I was doing a phone-a-thon, which actually helped to, as a millennial, so getting on the phone isn't always my favorite thing, but it was a great exercise in just becoming more comfortable talking to people I'd never talked to and asking them for money. And so that actually translated really well to the cold calling you have to do with reporters, especially at the kind of the early years of PR. So that was kind of an unexpected carryover, but I did that for a season.
As an economics major, are there any classes or professors that you remember fondly?
Yeah, I loved the econ program. I think I went into Hillsdale thinking I'd be going like the pure politics route. I thought I'd work on the Hill. I took Constitution 101 and decided I was not going to be doing that. Great class, great. I had a great professor, but I realized I didn't. It just didn't kind of click with how my brain worked. And I took poly-econ with Wolfram, and it just really appealed to just the way that I see the world, and it offered kind of a framework that just made a lot of sense to me. So yeah, really enjoyed his classes. Pongrasic was my advisor. He did a great job. Got to work with Dr. Clark as a research associate, and took a couple of his classes. And I did an independent study with him my senior year, kind of tying, looking at the economics of philanthropy, which is really, really interesting, and tied a little bit into the programs I was working on at my first job as a research associate. So, yeah, I really enjoyed my time in the econ department.
For students who want to get involved in PR work, what opportunities should they be taking advantage of at the college to prepare them?
So there are a couple of things that I look for when I'm screening kind of entry-level PR candidates. Honestly, really strong writing skills is huge. Really amazing how difficult it is to find really strong writers. And you can kind of strengthen someone's like form, but like being able to tell a story succinctly and across a lot of different formats is rarer than you would think. So that's a big thing. This is going to sound a little bit trite, but honestly, time on the phone and being able to be inquisitive and be able to kind of manage multiple workloads, which can, I mean, as a Hillsdale student, folks are juggling a lot. So it will not be hard to kind of build that experience, but being able to multitask and be able to think critically is pretty important.
All right, Lauren. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You have been listening to Beyond the Bubble, a podcast by Hillsdale College Career Services. This show is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. I'm Lauren Scott, and have a great day.
Hey folks, it's Scott Bertram, director of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. I wanted to take some time to say thank you. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. We're working hard here to bring you the good, the true, and the beautiful in audio form, and we couldn't do it without someone very important. That someone is you, of course. Hillsdale reaches and teaches millions of people through its free online courses and in Primus and, podcasts like this one. But without you, none of that is possible. Your support is essential to the pursuit of truth and the defense of liberty. The more you listen, the more this work thrives. So thank you again for listening, and God bless you and your family.